Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
On this Wednesday night, political theater or genuine offer to help? Signs the federal Conservatives may want to cooperate with the Liberals.
I've yet to see the Conservative being very constructive.
Alberta versus Ottawa again. Why the Premier is demanding changing how federal judges are appointed or else. Bill Gates breaks his silence.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize.
What the billionaire is saying about his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. Plus, bringing her A game.
There is no perfect dog, but she's very close to a written standard.
The first Canadian canine to win the Westminster Dog Show in 11 years. And what's next for her?
Global National Week of
Conservative Party appears to be taking tact. A Conservative advance has gone to Washington, saying he wants to help the here.
Conservative in.
Me respond to a global news request for his itinerary. But he did say he believed he could help improve Canada-U.S. relations.
This is not a part of you.
Lithgow did not to Washington visit. Prime Minister Mark Carney dismissing it as a public relations stunt.
I think it might have something to do with all of you.
But the Conservatives see it as their way of trying to help, something Pierre Poilievre told Carney when the two men met Wednesday.
We have been working to fast track anything that we believe, however modest, might make life a little more affordable, a little safer, and our economy a little stronger.
Carney did not speak to reporters about the meeting, but other Liberals said it was the Conservatives who were blocking the government's agenda.
I've yet to see the Conservative being very constructive, despite what they say publicly.
We've been asking for help on cracking down on fentanyl, Mr. Speaker, and tackling organized crime, but they've been stalling and they've been obstructing all along.
And there's a bit of truth on both sides here, Donna. Yes, the Conservatives have tried to block some legislation, but on Monday, it was the Conservatives who proposed fast-tracking the Liberal plan to boost GST benefits. So you take that, today's meeting with Carney, the Giovanni trip, all of them signs that Poilievre and his party think one path to reversing sliding poll numbers for the Conservatives is to be seen as helping to move things forward rather than being seen as standing in the way.
Okay, David Aiken in Ottawa, thank you. Alberta's Premier wants more say in appointing judges, including to the Supreme Court of Canada, and Danielle Smith has threatened to hold back funding that judges need to do their jobs unless she gets it. Judicial independence is a core principle of Canadian democracy, and the federal justice minister responded today saying he intends to maintain the process that he says is rigorous and independent. Heather Yorks-West explains what Premier Smith wants and why.
Another battle line between the Alberta and federal government has been drawn, this time over how federal judges in the province are appointed.
My sense is we have a functioning independent process. We should protect it and defend the independence of the judiciary at all costs.
Justice Minister Sean Fraser says there is no need for change after a call from Alberta's Premier for reform. In a letter to the Prime Minister dated January 23rd, Danielle Smith said she expected input when it comes to upcoming judicial appointments, adding Alberta's government will not agree to provide funding to support any new judges until such engagement and collaboration are provided. Under current practices, a federal judicial advisory committee from each province is already involved in the appointment of federal judges, which includes nominees made by Alberta's Justice Minister and the Law Society of Alberta.
It is not in the least chosen by the Liberal caucus in the way that people might imagine.
Smith's letter comes after the Premier prompted a rare public statement from Alberta's Chief Justices with a comment on her Chorus radio call-in show in response to a question about bail reform.
I wish I could direct the judges, honestly, Chris. The judges get very, very prickly when you criticize them, but boy, the example that you just raised, they deserve the criticism.
In a statement online 3 days later, Alberta's Chief Justices emphasized the need for judicial independence. A properly functioning democracy requires 3 separate branches of government, they wrote. Independence of the judicial branch protects the public. Lawyers in the province have also expressed concern.
The rule of law is being dismantled in Alberta, and this is another part of that I think is happening right now, is that this province is asking to interfere further, or at least have appointed the judges they want, and because they can't directly tell the judges what they want them to do, they're trying to now
entertains.
Today, killer Joe Couchy, psychiatrist, criticised by the New South Wales coroner investigating the Bondi Junction stabbing attack.
Dr. Broslevac ultimately failed to take more active steps or to recognise the seriousness of the situation that was unfolding before her.
Ukraine and the US hail peace talks with Russia as constructive amid renewed strikes on Kyiv. The Northern Territory government declares a flood emergency for the Daly River community. And scientists concerned the increasing number of hot days are putting Kangaroo Island's black cockatoos at risk. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. The New South Wales coroner has criticised the long-term psychiatrist of killer Joel Couchy while handing down the findings from her inquest into the Bondi Junction mass stabbing. A warning: this story contains distressing details. Couchy murdered 6 people and injured another 10 during the rampage in the Westfield shopping centre almost 2 years ago. Magistrate Teresa O'Sullivan made 23 recommendations, with mental health care a key focus. An expert panel gave evidence that Couchy was floridly psychotic during the killing spree. Magistrate O'Sullivan raised concerns about the psychiatrist's management of her patient post-October 2019, the response from Westfield's operator and emergency services, and the impact of media reporting on the victims' families was also scrutinised. The magistrate paid tribute to the bravery of Inspector Amy Scott, who shot dead Couchy, ending the attack. Crime reporter Ethan Ricks is with me in the studio now to take us through the inquest findings and recommendations. Hi, Ethan. So a lot to get through. First, can you give us, though, an overview of the incident and the whole inquest process?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ros. It's been more than 20 months now since Joel Couchy went on that stabbing rampage, killing 6 people and injuring a further 10 at the Bondi Junction, Westfield, in April 2024. That all came to an end within 6 minutes after New South Wales Police Inspector...
Breaking in, Ethan, to take viewers live to Perth, where WA Premier Roger Cook and State Police are speaking.
Look, thanks very much for joining us. I'm joined today by Senator Malarndirri McCarthy, Minister for Indigenous Australians. Also joining us today to give some comments, WA Police Commissioner Cole Blanche, Australian Federal Police Commissioner Chrissy Barrett, and members of the AFP. Can I also acknowledge them? Can I acknowledge Minister Reece Whitby, who will be available for comment, and Senator Dorinda Cox, who's joined us for today's announcement. And can I begin by saying, last Monday, on January the 26th, a man allegedly threw a homemade bomb into a crowd of people peacefully protesting in the heart of Perth City. Thankfully, it did not detonate. But for that, we could have seen a mass casualty event with injuries and potential loss of life. It was an incident that shook all Western Australians and Australians to the core. We must condemn this incident in the strongest possible terms, and we must call it for what it is.
David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight there is breaking news just as we come on the air. The scene playing out right now outside Savannah Guthrie's mother's home. FBI and state authorities on the scene at this hour, and we have new reporting tonight in the urgent search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. The FBI significantly increasing its presence in this case. Authorities investigating potential ransom letters now sent to multiple TV stations.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she's alive,
to determine if they have any real connection to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And news on Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker and how it could provide clues more than 72 hours now into this urgent search. Tonight, the dispatch audio, the emergency call, and you'll hear it, what we've learned right here. Also tonight, breaking news in Minneapolis, the major turn border czar Tom Homan sent in by President Trump and what he has now announced there. Tonight, billionaire Bill Gates breaking his silence over his name appearing in the Jeffrey Epstein files, saying, "I regret every minute I spent together," and Bill Gates' ex-wife tonight, Belinda French Gates, with choice words about who she says should be answering the questions now, and the new and disturbing images of Prince Andrew and the fallout. Tonight, the disturbing allegations about the discovery in a home. Was it an illegal biolab? And now comes news tonight that multiple people who had been in that home now reporting they've been sickened. The vials recovered, and what we've learned tonight. Tonight, the father pulled over. Authorities say he was driving while intoxicated. He tells police he has children in the trunk, and what they found. The new measles outbreak tonight, this time in Florida. The numbers growing this evening. And Best in Show, Penny the Doberman, right here tonight. And the moment they honor the late actress Catherine O'Hara, known for her iconic role in Best in Show, and you'll see it right here.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Los Angeles.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with the breaking news and the race against time to find the mother of today's show host.
Africa News. The news.
Ghana's consumer inflation slowed further to 3.8% in January to reach its lowest level in 5 years, according to the Ghana Statistical Service. Prices rose just 0.2% month-on-month, extending a 13-month disinflation streak. This trend reflects broad easing across both food and non-food items. Food inflation slowed to 3.9% year-on-year, while non-food prices fell by 0.4% compared with the previous month. A stronger currency, lower import costs, and improved food supplies have favored this steady inflation decline. Over the past year, Ghana has also pursued tighter monetary policy, as well as fiscal reforms tied to the country's International Monetary Fund program. Ghana is emerging from one of its worst economic crises in decades, marked by soaring prices, debt restructuring, and an IMF-backed recovery plan. Lower inflation is expected to ease pressure on households and businesses, though policymakers have said they remain cautious. United States President Donald Trump has extended the 26-year-old free trade agreement with African countries after months of uncertainty over the future of the deal. Trump on Tuesday signed into law an extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, according to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. But the extension is short-term and lasts until December 31st, providing only brief relief to African countries. The U.S. Trade Office also said the agreement would be modified to account for U.S.-imposed tariffs. Introduced in 2000, the trade program allows some 1,800 products to be exported to the U.S. duty-free, including crude oil, cars, clothing, textiles, and agricultural produce. It drives much of the trade between the US and Africa, which was valued at more than $100 billion in 2024 by the US Trade Office. The agreement included 34 African countries when the Trump administration allowed it to expire in September 2025. Many businesses in affected nations then claimed that the end of the deal would endanger tens of thousands of jobs.
The Red Cross says at least 162 people have been killed by gunmen in Nigeria's western Kwara state, one of the deadliest attacks in the country in recent months. The strike late Tuesday came after the military recently carried out operations in the area against what it called terrorist elements. Police have confirmed the attack without providing any casualty figures. As the search continues for bodies, the death toll is expected to rise. A local lawmaker says the gunmen stormed the village of Waro at about 6 in the evening, setting shops and the king's palace on fire. He says the traditional king's whereabouts remain unknown. Nigeria is plagued by an interlinked security crisis. Armed gangs, known locally as bandits, operate in swathes of the country, looting villages and kidnapping people for ransom. Jihadist groups are active in the northeast and northwest, while intercommunal violence is prevalent in the central states. The Nigerian military has intensified operations against the jihadists and bandits. It's faced intense scrutiny in recent months after US President Donald Trump claimed a genocide of Christians was taking place, a claim that's been rejected by the government and independent experts.
We continue to monitor the home of Nancy Guthrie after a flurry of police activity within the last couple of hours. At the same time, a desperate search for Nancy is underway. So, what will it take to solve the case and bring this 84-year-old grandmother home safe and sound and get her the medicine that she desperately needs? Here with more reaction analysis, the host of Crime Stories with Nancy Grace on Fox Nation. Nancy is with us. Okay. This has been your life's mission, your passion, your vocation in life, and you have studied more crimes than any other one person that I know. Let's look at and unpack, as I've been saying, all of this new information that we have, and that post by Savannah and her brother and sister on Instagram. What do you glean from that?
Number one, it's heartbreaking and excruciating to watch, but we have to watch. And this is what I discern. Number one, law enforcement absolutely knew that this statement was being made. They probably helped them prepare it. I know Savannah. Savannah would not go rogue. We work together at Court TV. She's covered many, many cases like this. She knows what's happening. She would not go rogue and do this against law enforcement's decision, much less the FBI, for Pete's sake. Of course they knew, and they probably coached them or helped them. Number one, what else does it tell me? To take the ransom notes seriously. There's a lot being thrown around in the media that is it real, is it fake, is Bitcoin, blah, blah. Well, apparently that note had something in it that made Savannah Guthrie, who knows the law like the back of her hand, try to reach out and speak to whoever sent it. That tells me that possibly the description in the note was accurate. Only the family and law enforcement would know that. And they have chosen, Savannah and her brother and sister have chosen to engage with whoever wrote those notes. There's something in that note is accurate.
Okay, so I agree with you. I can't imagine that they would go out there with this statement and basically asking for proof of life, talking about a willingness to talk. I don't think they would do that at all.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, the end of the U.S.-Russia nuclear weapons treaty reignites fears of a global arms race. Moscow says it's no longer bound by limits on nuclear warheads. Thailand heads to the polls this Sunday in a three-way race, with opinion polls showing strong support for the reformist People's Party. Japan also voting this weekend, with polls pointing to a strong showing for the ruling party amid growing support for Prime Minister Sane Takaichi among younger voters. Concerns are mounting of a new arms race as the last remaining control treaty between the world's nuclear superpowers expires today. Russia is already warning it will face no limits on nuclear warheads. It says it has received no formal response from the U.S. on extending the New START treaty by a year, accusing the U.S. of being mistaken and regrettable in its approach. Moscow says it assumes the parties are no longer bound by any obligations in the context of the deal. It intends to act responsibly and prudently, remaining open to seeking ways to stabilize the situation on the basis of equal dialogue. It cautioned, though, that Russia is ready to take decisive countermeasures if national security was threatened. U.S. President Donald Trump last year said he did not want the treaty to expire. He's expected to comment on the issue later, according to his top diplomat, Marco Rubio.
Obviously, the president's been clear in the past that in order to have true arms control in the 21st century, it's impossible to do something that doesn't include China because of their vast and rapidly growing stockpile.
For nearly half a century of nuclear arms treaties, it has been between the U.S. and Russia. But with the rise of China, Beijing now has the world's third largest nuclear arsenal. Germany is urging China to join arms control efforts. The German foreign minister feels the Chinese have to be included, saying they keep emphasizing multilateralism and that they should be ready to show restraint. Asia knows the nuclear threat well. The first and only nuclear weapons to be used in a conflict were those dropped by the U.S. on Japan's Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II, estimated to have killed more than 200,000 people, both immediately and from radiation over the years.
Very good evening, live from Washington, D.C. This is Beth Turner on GB News with the stories this evening shaping Britain and America.
What was not known.
Very good evening, live from Washington, D.C. This is Beth Turner on GB News with the stories this evening shaping Britain and America.
What was not known was the sheer depth and extent of the relationship. He lied about that to everyone for years.
A liar and someone who betrayed Britain. The Prime Minister tore into Peter Mandelson today over his links to Jeffrey Epstein, as the government is now forced to explain how and why he was appointed US ambassador. Is it the end of days for Keir Starmer? Well, probably not. What do you think?
Now they're looking to essentially just to lease and sell it, and I'm against that. It's a reasonably nothing like Greenland, but it's a reasonably important area of the globe.
Well, he was against it, but if rumours are to believe, he's now for it. One of the biggest issues in DC tonight as rival sides scramble to talk to President Trump. Tonight, according to one newspaper, the president is expected to approve the Chagos deal. Sir Ian Duncan Smith is one of those here to make the case. He's going to join me in the studio to tell me exactly what's going on very soon.
For decades, the British police have harassed me for expressing views that the majority of the public share. In 10 years, not one person, not the police who arrested me, not the colleagues who condemned me, not the friends who turned away, has told any of us what we did wrong.
Cancelled writer, victim of the trans lobbyists, Graham Linehan took his free speech fight all the way to Congress today, urging allies of Donald Trump to hold authoritarian Britain to account. He's also going to join me in the studio this evening for an exclusive interview a little later. And David Lammy has unveiled the government's plan for Supermax-style prison units to hold Britain's most dangerous offenders. But is the UK really ready to import the American justice model? Let me know what you think.
Too many people are working illegally. So they're getting around the rules, they're working illegally, they're almost certainly being really badly exploited at the same time.
Well, tonight, GB News is going to exclusively reveal to you the illegal working hotspots as the Home Office tells us what they are calling the biggest immigration enforcement crackdown is coming down the line in British history. But will it punish the right people? I'm Bev Turner, and this is The Late Show Live.
This is DW News. These are our top stories. Peace talks between Ukraine and Russia have been called productive after the first day of negotiations resumed in Abu Dhabi. However, their expectations remain far apart. Russia is demanding Ukraine's mineral-rich Donbas region a no-go for Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say that shortly after talks began, Russia launched cluster munitions on a civilian target in Ukraine, killing at least 7 people. A local Nigerian lawmaker says armed gunmen have killed at least 162 people during attacks on 2 villages in the western Kwara state. The attacks are said to have been carried out by a group affiliated with the so-called Islamic State. At least 21 people were killed in a separate attack in northern Nigeria. U.S. Border Chief Tom Homan says the number of federal immigration enforcement agents in Minnesota will be cut by 700 in response to the killing of 2 U.S. citizens by federal agents. President Trump has now also said that immigration efforts might require a softer touch. This is DW News from Berlin. For more, go to our website, dw.com.
Shape what's next. The biggest names are on France 24. Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry and this is Daybreak, and here are this morning's headlines. Fears of uncertainty as the nuclear weapons pact between the United States and Russia expires after 16 years. Russia's deputy foreign minister says it is a new reality which Moscow is ready for after the lapse of the New START treaty, which limited the size of each country's nuclear arsenal. Ukraine's chief negotiator hails a productive first day of talks with Russia in Abu Dhabi, though major differences remain between the two parties over how the war in Ukraine might end. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledges 55,000 soldiers dead in the conflict. Talks between Iran and the United States on Tehran's nuclear program will go ahead on Friday. After disagreements over the format and content of the talks, the two sides agreed to sit down in Oman rather than Istanbul, as previously expected. And coming up, the first events in the 25th Winter Olympic Games get underway later today. We'll be taking a look at what to expect from the Games in Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo ahead of Friday night's opening ceremony.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.